Okay. Just to reiterate, the big idea of this case study is that methods of government regulation from the broadcast era are no longer adequate in a globalised digital media landscape. Today, the media is considered to be intangible, globally distributed, and prolific. We'll come back to what those terms actually mean in a minute. So this has impacted the ability of these older regulatory bodies, like the Classification Board of Australia, to police content and uphold those community values as effectively as they once could. So this is tying together the other things that we've said from the Classification Board. It's tying together the ideas of why we regulate, so the rationale for regulating, and how today that is more difficult than ever. All right, I'm going to keep moving through. Remember, these slides will be up on the portal, and when I finish the recording, I'll also upload that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to what Ken Park is. So there's obviously nothing to type here. When we get to the next slide, there will be things to take notes of. But the main thing that you need to know, this is a film that was refused classification. This is a film that has things in it that the Classification Board decided that nobody in Australia should see. Okay? We will touch on what those things are, but they're a bit icky. We we don't dwell too much on them. But what I want to show you is what happened all the way back when this film was first refused classification in 2003. So this is a very old video clip as to what happened. And I want you to think about just how effective the regulation or stopping people from watching this film was back then in the period before high-speed internet. So here we go.
Says Australian adults have a right to read, see and hear what they choose.
It's a shame that actually had to come to this point. But we have come to it.
Calling themselves Free Cinema, well-known faces from the film and media community joined Margaret in what quickly became a 500-strong protest against government censorship.
I'm here to see a film that I think everyone should have a choice to be able to see. I don't like the idea that someone is going to make up their mind, my mind, for me.
You know, I'm an adult, we should be able to see any film that there is that's around there. This film has been shown in many other countries, so why can't we see it in Australia? What's wrong with us?
We have to apply Australian laws and Australian community standards, and that's what we did.
Maureen Shelley is one of 3 Board of Review members from the Office of Film and Literature Classification who banned Ken Park from Australian screens.
We felt that the filmmakers went into detail, the scenes were prolonged, there was real concern there about the gratuitous nature of some of the scenes in the film.
Shouldn't an adult have the right to go and see it and make up their own mind?
Adults, under the Australian system, adults do have the right to see, hear and read what they would like. However, we have to balance that. This is a complete balancing act that we do, and someone has to draw the line somewhere.
and Margaret's Bolshoi blood.
So if you didn't hear, she's gone, if it was up to me, I'd keep showing it. Oh, bugger it. And she's put it back on.
But it wasn't to last. Pomerantz was not arrested, but her details and those of co-conspirators were noted by the boys in blue.
What is running through your mind now that it's been stopped?
Well, I mean, a sense of defeat would be the least of it, I must say. I wanted, all these people came here to see this film tonight, and I said I'd show it to them, and I can't do that. So, you know, I feel I've let everybody in this room down. It's not a good feeling.
Is this the end of the issue, or will you continue with these sorts of public
It's got to be
forums?
the beginning of the fight, really. See what happens tomorrow.
Well, at the end of the day, the people here...
Okay, so that's probably enough of that. So to recap kind of what we saw, because it's a bit difficult with the quality of that video. But in 2002, Ken Park, it was refused classification. And that was it was due to depictions of unsimulated sex, basically. So it means that the sex scenes in it, people weren't acting. And the characters in some of these scenes, not the actors, really important to draw the line there, but the characters in some of these scenes were underage. Characters, not actors, but right, but still, yeah. And some of the scenes were violent, non-consensual, and the presentation of it was glorified, right? So as soon as we say that out loud, maybe some of us who sit there thinking, oh, look, I think that, and generally I think that anybody should be able to watch whatever they want, right? That's kind of my attitude to these things, that grown adults should be able to make grown adult decisions. But then I see those words, or I type them out for this presentation, and I go, oh, actually, yeah, okay. Some things that maybe not everybody should be putting this out there for everybody's eyes. But whether you agree with the classification board's decision or not, a group did not agree. So this is the group that you saw. So a group led by film critic Margaret Pomerantz decided to screen the film despite the ban. What happened as a result? The police turned the power off. That's what we saw where everybody started booing. So originally the police came, they asked for the DVD, they asked for it to be switched off. Margaret said, yes, I will switch it off. The police walked away. She put it back on. And so the police then turned the power off to the building to prevent the screening. They charged Margaret Pomerantz and the organisers. Not that it's important, but the charges were later dropped. It didn't go to court. She didn't face any real punishment over this. And the blue text there, and I know I've highlighted it blue, this is directly from the report by the classification board in their decision making, which it's kind of hard to digest, but they said that, you know, the scenes were presented in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults. So that was their reasoning, that basically that's very long-winded fancy language code for it goes against Australian society standards, which is what we said is one of the rationales for regulating. So, good shot, Kobe. This film, Ken Park, it is still banned today.
Do we have that written? Or as long as we have?
The bit that says it's still banned today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. It's still banned today is an important bit, because we're leading to probably the most important bit. So film cannot be sold or screened anywhere in Australia. I think you'll remember that we spoke in our last regulation lesson about the idea that it's not illegal to watch it, it's illegal to sell it, rent it out, or screen it for other people, okay? So it is still banned to this day. However, I'll let people finish typing because this the however's the important bit. Cool. So can't be seen anywhere in Australia. Illegal to screen it anywhere in Australia, but we can get to it very, very easily. As recently as August, so that should be 2025, sorry, not 2024. Australian audiences can access Ken Park fairly easily through a variety of ways. They can go to illegal pirating sites. Insert your favourite illegal pirating site here. Kick-Ass Torrents, 123 Movies, Soap Today, any others that I don't know of that people use?
Flickstore.
What is it?
Flickstore. You have to pay
Flickstore. You have to pay for Flickstore. There you go. I don't know if it's available on Flickstore, but that's another...
Do you want me to check?
No, please don't. Please definitely don't. Even doing a simple search will bring it up. You could also, if you feel bad about going through illegal pirating sites, like they said in the video, or do you remember the old lady in the video was saying, people are allowed to watch this in other countries, so why can't we? It is on legal, not illegal, but it is on legal streaming platforms in other countries like Mubi. So Mubi is like a prestige film. It's quite a good one. In the American version, they've got it. So if you use a VPN, hands up if you know what a VPN allows you to do. Most, but it's now pretty common, right? Like everybody's phones now have, like Apple have built in the ability to use a VPN. So VPN means that you can pretend that your laptop is in another country accessing the internet. So you can use that VPN to pretend that you are in America and access Mubi.com and watch it in a way that feels less illegal. Still breaking regulation, but it's not as bad as going to these pirating sites. Who wants to have? Let's play a little bit of a game. I want you to guess the number of clicks that it will take me to get from a Google search to a full-length version of the film. How many clicks do you think it will take? Once I type in my Google search. 3 clicks?
Yeah,
3?
2, actually.
2? All right, so we're upping the bid for 2. Anyone for 1? Anyone for more than 3? Let's have a go. Ken Park, full movie. Okay, you can see I've done this before. Let's say F'd up movies. I don't know if I want to access that. I do know that if I go full movie archive, they've taken it off. That's interesting. Oh, here we go. So on Netflix, but it won't be the Australian version. It won't get it because you can see it's the US version. So it's on. Yep. Of course you may. So I do know that through Internet Archive, archive.org, I know that I can click 1 and I can click 2, and I'm not going to because I know that to screen it is illegal, and I also know, having read about the film, it is not something that I want to see, let alone have you see it either. But 2 clicks was the answer. So after I hit that search, it was literally just clicking on that link, and then I can click on this one too, but I will not. So I want you to think about how easy it now is to access this prohibited content, right? So this is the main point of this case study. So the case study, it highlights key challenges in regulating content in today's contemporary media landscape. And this is why it's a challenge. So tangible is the word that we use for physical media that you can touch and pick up and buy from a shop and you take home in the bag, and it comes with a receipt. So tangible media, physical media, was easy for authorities to regulate. Right? The police could block shipments of DVDs from arriving. Right? They could confiscate DVDs from screenings. They could confiscate film reels from cinemas. They could go to screenings and turn off the power to the one projector that was showing it. We saw that in the example 2003, 2 years before YouTube was launched, right? 2 years before streaming video was popularized. So very easy to stop physical media, not so easy to stop things when they're intangible, when they're just floating there in the internet and you can get to it by doing a web search. So that's where we say, however, as media content is now intangible and globally available, and as savvy online audiences have increased agency, so that's increased freedom, increased choice, limiting the distribution of banned content is nearly impossible for regulators nowadays. Okay, you notice that the police didn't, as I was hovering my mouse over the Ken Park video and I was one click away, you will notice that the police didn't come in and turn the power off to the building, right? Why? Well, because nobody knew that I was about to do that. If I was using a VPN, they wouldn't even know where I was. And because I was accessing a legal site like archive.org, not even the school's firewalls, that stop us from accessing things that we shouldn't, they didn't even realize that I was about to access something that was prohibited. So really impossible to police intangible, streamed, globally available media. The other thing that makes it hard to police is online distribution is prolific. And the word prolific just means there's lots of it, right? It's everywhere and easy to find. Constantly emerging, constantly being uploaded. So even if some of these sites were removed, and often they are, often these pirating websites get taken down, but whenever they do, another one pops up. And that results in what we call a futile whack-a-mole approach. So that whack-a-mole phrase comes from the arcade game. Do you know the one where you've got creatures' heads that pop up and you got to hit them with a hammer? And so you hit one and another one pops up, right? So that's the analogy for what's happening with this prohibited media on the internet, right? You take down one pirating website and another one pops up, right? You take down one banned video from someone's social media account, somebody's reposted it elsewhere, right? It becomes really, really difficult. And so the attempts to take them down is pretty futile. All right. So this brings us to kind of a key point directly from the study design. As the media increasingly crosses national borders, governments struggle to maintain control over laws and policies created for their jurisdictions. All right. So, just casting our minds back, doing a brief recap, we've looked at the two different types of regulation that we're talking about, so government and self-regulation. We've looked at the reasons or the rationales for regulating, protecting those vulnerable audiences, as well as upholding community standards. We've looked at a method of government regulation, so that's through the classification board and how they go through looking at different films, video games, DVDs before they're distributed, assigning impacts against certain classifiable elements, coming up with a final rating. And now we've looked at where that system no longer works, okay, and using Ken Park as an example. So we're going to do similar to self-regulation now. Right? So self-regulation, if you remember, that is where the media companies themselves come up with their own rules. And essentially the goals of self-regulation is to overcome some of those weaknesses of government regulation. Some of those limitations of government regulation that we just kind of saw with the Ken Park example. Now each social media platform has its own set of rules, but they're all kind of similar. So to take an example, and you honestly only need to know like a couple of these, right? This is not, you're never going to be asked to name all of them. And even this is a small sample, right? This is probably about half of what they've got. But different online social media platforms will have different rules. TikTok calls them their community guidelines, and it lists the content that could be removed from their service. And that includes some of these things, right? And I think we kind of know these from just existing on the internet, but adult nudity or sex can't be shown on TikTok. You can't bully or harass people. There is obviously particular attention placed on minor safety, as in young people, not people who dig for coal. It also looks at misinformation, copyright issues, any dangerous acts or challenges. And what else do we have? Anything that is, I guess, mental health related, so promotion of suicide, self-harm, or disordered eating, anything violent or graphic. So you can see with this list, and again, you don't need to know this full list, right? But I'm just giving you a snapshot to show you that some of these things cross over with what like the classification board look out for, but some of them are highly specific to things that you would find on TikTok that might be considered harmful. Yeah.
But sometimes I'm on TikTok and I see people do like dangerous stuff, and it just says like, but then it says like, oh, like warning, like,
Oh,
do you see
professional,
that?
like,
like,
yeah.
don't try this unless you're a professional.
Yep, absolutely. So they're like,
But that's like, with that, should that be taken down?
yes, right? In the same way that shouldn't nobody be able to access Ken Park? And this is like,
But
just because these are the rules.
For saying that
Yep.
you shouldn't do
Yep.
it unless you're a professional.
Yeah, I think that there are loopholes to these things that they can get around, right? And by no means does TikTok get it right. They get it wrong a lot of the time, right? And all of these social media platforms do. So, for instance, X, since Elon Musk took over, X had a similar range of things that back in the Twitter days, but now they've started to remove some of these things, okay? They've started to remove things like misinformation. They no longer check for misinformation. They just go, oh yeah, say whatever you like, right? They have removed rules against adult nudity and sex. They have removed things about certain mental health content. They have removed some things around bullying and harassment, or at least they choose who to police the bullying and harassment. You'll be pleased to know that Elon Musk himself is protected from people bullying and harassing, but there is less protection for people who are in actual real world danger. So different platforms have different rules, and they are effective in different ways. I'm going to skip over this, right? So please don't type on this one. But you kind of know how it works on any of these social media platforms, where in order for something to be taken down, it first needs to be reported by someone. So somebody uploads something, and it's not until it is reported that it gets taken down. Now, some things these platforms have put in place bots that will check and take things down automatically. Examples of that where it's effective is reposts of videos, right? So if there is a video that shows violence, for instance, that gets reported in the first instance, taken down, and also like the images are recorded by TikTok or X or Reels, whatever, held in a database, so the next time that somebody uploads something, it checks against it and says, no, we've seen this video before and we've banned it, so we'll take it down. The same is the case for copyright video, which is why, how often do you see on TikTok videos that are from like TV shows or movies, and it's been like mirror reversed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? That is to avoid it being checked by those bots. Yeah? That's a way of being like outsmarting the machine, because it's checking for something that looks like that. If I display it like that, it won't be the same. Actually, that does look the same. So yes, so that is one way. But the very first time something is uploaded, it can only be taken down if it is reported by somebody. Those reports then go to, sometimes they will go to bots. So if it's like a nudity thing, sometimes a bot will check for nudity, right? So they'll check against their database of what a naked person looks like and remove it. But often it will appear in front of a person, And TikTok have tens of thousands of people working on this. Instagram, or Meta, I should say, have tens of thousands of people working on this. X, since Elon Musk took over, have a couple of hundred people working on this. But it's like literally, so there are, and they're often in emerging nations. So India and the Philippines tend to have the most employees whose job it is, as a moderator, to check all these things. So they're literal, like it's a modern day sweatshop almost, where it's people's job getting paid less than what we would accept as a livable wage. People getting paid next to nothing to literally view the most abhorrent, offensive, nightmare-inducing stuff and say whether it's okay or not. And they've got metrics as to how quickly they go through them, right? So it's literally like, yes, no, bad, yes, okay, awful, right? So, it might be male exposed chest, that's okay. Male exposed chest, that's okay. Female exposed chest, no. Dog being tortured, no. Right? Like that's the stuff that gets uploaded. That's somebody's job to check that. That's the system of regulation. Yeah.
Does it get like a second opinion, or is it
You can appeal. So it goes, and because now you imagine if that's somebody's job and their job depends on how quickly they go through, right? A lot of them get it wrong, right? We've seen stuff online that shouldn't be there, right? They can get it wrong the other way as well, right? People will say, this is offensive, this is hate speech, but imagine an Australian audience saying something is hate speech because they, in the video, is using quite specific cultural references, cultural insults, Australian insults, and that goes to somebody in Manila in the Philippines, and they're like, I don't understand these words, it's fine, right? So that they can get that wrong as well. It goes both ways. But you can appeal if you think something has been taken down incorrectly. But sometimes those appeals don't necessarily get listened to. Sometimes your account gets banned and you don't really have much of an option to appeal. Your only option is creating a whole new account. It's a pretty messy system. I'm going to skip over this guy. Go away, Andrew Tate. And I'm going to...
Did he get arrested?
Yeah, for trafficking.
Yes, human trafficking. Yes,
Is he still arrested?
I'm not too... I'm pleased to say that I've not been keeping abreast of everything that happens to Andrew Tate. I know I think he is still, whether he is in jail or is somewhere awaiting trial, but I think he is awaiting trial, yeah. Thinking about government versus self-regulation, it might be handy to create this as a bit of a table to weigh up the strengths and weaknesses of each, because you can hopefully, as we walk through them, you can see that the strengths of government regulation are the weaknesses of self-regulation and vice versa. So a couple of the strengths of government regulation, it has the authority through law. Right? So it can penalise with fines or arrests. That's a pretty good incentive to not do the wrong thing. Okay? I was heavily incentivised not to click play and screen Ken Park for you because of the legal ramifications. Okay? That's not the only reason. It's also because I'm not a horrible, horrible person. I'm just a singular horrible person. But that's a pretty good incentive, right? getting fined, getting arrested. Don't want to do it. Another strength of government regulation is because it's government, if it's a democratic government, and not all governments that regulate are democratic, but in a democracy, it's ultimately accountable to the citizens. It's meant to reflect society's values and regulate in accordance with society's values. So that's a good thing. Because if it's not regulating in accordance to society's values in a democracy, well, society will change the government and therefore change what's being regulated, right? Weaknesses, though, of government regulation, it doesn't necessarily represent all citizens. You remember when we looked at the classification board and we played the game of pick the minority, a game in which we all lost. It is also slow to act. What does that mean? It means just the amount of time it takes to pass a new law and then set up the regulatory bodies and the policies and the ways in which that law can be policed takes a long, long time. Let's think about December the 10th this year, where social media ban comes in place for people under 16. And I know that that's not us, and I know that it's certainly not Quinny, but for a lot of people, when it was first announced, you would have been 16 at least. Some of you under. Because this was announced almost 18 months ago. And yet it's not until December this year that it's actually going to be put in place. Now, 18 months, when we're talking about something that's protecting teenagers, well, that's a long, long time. But let's think about it in the grand scheme of things. Social media has been around for what, 15 years? More? And so it's taken the government that long to work out that social media is A, potentially harmful for young teenagers, and B, put something together in place that's going to fix it. And even then, we're not sure that it's going to fix it because there is still a lot of debate as to exactly how it's going to be policed. Although I did read the other day that Instagram have started targeting people who it sees as teenagers, targeting those people's like feeds, reels, and making sure that the content that they get is only like PG content. Has anybody noticed that their feeds have changed recently?
Actually, yes.
Yes? Is it a bit softer in content?
It's just a bit boring now. Like not in like a like I want to see something.
Like I want to, yeah.
But in like I don't know.
Yeah. So no, that's good feedback because that's something that they have actively tried to do. And they would have done that. Now, mine hasn't changed because they know that I'm not a teenager. But yeah, be interesting to see if maybe you notice this in the coming days or weeks, whether you think the content has changed at all. All right, then the other weakness of government regulation is its powers are confined to its national borders. Media now extends beyond these. We said this before when we looked at Ken Park, right? There is nothing that the Australian government can do to stop Mubi.com, a perfectly legal website, for hosting or streaming a perfectly legal movie in the USA. Because it's legal in the US, right? Australia can't control what happens over there. All right, self-regulation. Strengths, it responds immediately to individual audience concerns. So if you report something, it goes to one of those tens of thousands of people in India or the Philippines or other places too. And they check it straight away. That's good, right? That your concern gets addressed virtually immediately. Self-regulation works because it's in the media institution's interest to maintain a good reputation, right? It's especially now with these things like bans for people underage, TikTok and Meta and YouTube, not so much X because they do things differently there, but they want to make sure that they're like voluntarily distributing PG things to young people, right? They don't want more reason for more governments to turn around and be like, hey, you're sending out all these gory videos to teenagers, we're going to ban you just like Australia did, right? So it's in their interest to do good self-regulation. It also is good as far as from a user point of view. Self-regulation, the media institutions themselves bear the burden of the cost of regulating. YouTube pays for the tens of thousands of moderators, okay? Imagine if our government had to do that, employ tens of thousands of moderators. Who's paying for that? Hands up if you work. Yep, us. You're probably all under the threshold for tax, but you get the idea, right? Taxpayers are paying for it. And weaknesses of self-regulation, it has limited power in preventing bad actors on the platforms. So there is still that whack-a-mole approach, even though they have those bots that stop the same video from being uploaded twice. As we know, there are ways around it. And it requires users to understand and get involved in the regulation process. Hands up if you say that you're somebody who reports things reasonably often on social media. Sarah, you do? You do, Quinny? Hands up if you have ever reported things on social media. Hands up if you'd say you never report things no matter how awful they are. Isn't this, I think I've reported maybe 3 things in my life, right? Yep. I just I'm like, I don't have time, I scroll past.
I just click I'm not interested.
Yeah. Yep. I should do that more often too. Yeah, Sarah, as our resident negative Nancy, that's
It's just because I don't know why I get so many videos about like encouraging anorexia.
Yep.
So I always report them because I don't want some like poor 10-year-old girl to see it.
Yep. Great. Good. Like that is a good thing. And yeah, interesting that they're serving that to you. They probably know that you're a young woman who is into sport and fitness, and that's where it gets, right? It daisy chains off there. Okay. The other problem with self-regulation is ultimately they're not they're not accountable to citizens. They're not accountable to everybody. They're accountable to their shareholders. So really, their self-regulation is making sure that they keep that good reputation so that their shareholders can continue to make some money, right? That's the goal of any business. All right. So I'm going to finish us with another case study that shows kind of where this idea of self-regulation and government regulation, where these butt heads, where these collide. Okay? Yeah, I do want you to get the big idea on this. Sorry, I was trying to trim some things out to you. So the big idea of this clash is changes to self-regulation policies and decreasing policing of bad content on the X platform resulted in tension between the social media network and Australia's online regulator, the eSafety Commissioner. So where the Classification Board polices films, video games, the eSafety Commissioner is responsible for policing online content in Australia. It's a big job. The example that I'm about to show you is when self-regulation fails, it is up to government regulators to intervene, to step in, to override. However, and we've already sort of mentioned this before, national governments cannot overstep their local jurisdictions when taking on global media institutions. There's a limit to what local governments can do. When I say local, I mean like national governments. Right? So you got a national government taking on international companies. And this is what the Australian media or the Australian government, the challenge that it faces with a lot of its rules, including the social media ban. Of course you can. All right. Let's skip. Oh no, I skip this. Don't take notes. This is just it's not funny. I shouldn't say it's funny. It is an interesting and it is a good example of just the hellscape that is Twitter and just how ineffective Twitter's new policies are. So when Elon Musk took over, he said the bird is free. If you've been banned on Twitter in the past for hate speech, while you still can't incite hate, we're going to give you a second chance. We're going to welcome you back. Twitter in the past was too left-wing, was too politically correct, and it should be a space where grown adults exchange ideas, even if some of those ideas are confronting. So anybody that's been banned before, you're welcome back, and literally tweeted to Yeezy, welcome back friend, after he was banned for being anti-Semitic, and he immediately got back on, and the first thing that he did was spout more anti-Semitism in a way that was even worse than what got him kicked off in the first place. And so he was immediately banned again. He just went on posting images of swastikas and producing anti-Semitic remarks. That is one of the least offensive ones that we got. Another impact from Musk Twitter is companies are now leaving, right? People left. So even like the ABC's accounts closed because there was too many people responding with hate speech and bullying and harassment. And the ABC was just like, it's actually easier to not have our brand associated with any of that and to leave the platform than it is to now try and report it and debate it, right? So hate speech increased on Twitter. So let's get into a specific example. So this is how Australia, the Australian government polices the internet. They do this through the eSafety Commission, or eSafety Australia as well it's known. Its commissioner, so this is the person in charge, Julie Inman-Grant. Julie Inman-Grant.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, well,
I thought you said Julie Immigrant, and I was like, that's an interesting last name.
No. Inman-Grant. Yes. So she's the authority over online safety issues. Just like the Classification Board, because this is government regulation, it is established through law. specifically the Online Safety Act of 2021. And so they have certain powers. Some of their powers are significant. Some of them are fairly soft powers. So they have the power to educate the public on online safety. That's pretty soft power. They can respond to complaints about inappropriate web content. So this is where people who report things on social media and are unsatisfied by social media's response, they can then go to eSafety Australia. So this might be for things like impersonation accounts, people pretending to be you. And if I don't have a Instagram account and somebody sets one up as Mr. Dyring Media Teacher Instagram and posts all these awful things about me, maybe a disgruntled student, maybe a student who's about to leave the subject. I know you wouldn't do that because you're the one that reports other people. If I don't have a profile, like, it's going to be very hard for me to convince Instagram to take it down. And so Instagram might not respond to that. So then I can go to eSafety Australia, right? Same with anything, right? Anything that you don't think the platform is enforcing well enough, you can go to eSafety Australia. eSafety Australia can issue takedown notices. So they can say to these platforms, this content breaches not only your rules, but our national rules, you must take it down. And then their ultimate power is, if that social network doesn't do that, it can fine up to $780,000 per day for any breaches. So there's some good powers there. I don't want you to note this one. I'm going to give you a really specific example in a moment. But there has been growing tension between eSafety Australia and X, because since Elon Musk took over, as we know, safety on X has decreased. And so the complaints that go to eSafety Australia have increased. And so eSafety Australia has increased its attacks and its policing of X. Julian Grant, she herself says that this has created a perfect storm for safety to be diminished in Australia. It had concerns about child safety on X and child abuse material on X. It asked X, what are you doing about it? At the same time that X closed all of its Australian offices. So literally the phones were just ringing out in the Twitter office because Elon Musk fired everybody in Australia. And so the questions weren't being answered. So they've gone, all right, we have the power to issue a fine. Here is your fine, $610,000. X still have not paid that. So you can see kind of that it's a little bit tense between them at the moment. This is a specific example that I do want you to know. Oh yeah, Sky, before we get to it.
What happens if they don't pay off the fine? More fines?
Yep. We're going to get, more fines. How does that sound? If they were based in Australia, then they would have a stronger ability to enforce those fines. But when you literally don't have an office in Australia, where are you going to send the fine to, right? Where if let's say you, as people who are learning to drive and are about to get your licenses, if you get a whole bunch of speeding fines, red light fines, etc., you get your license taken away, right? You get your ability to drive taken away. You keep breaking those, right? You start drink driving and you cause crashes. You go to jail. The police come to your door and they arrest you. who's going to come to? There's no door, right? So this is one of the reasons why it's really hard to actually enforce these things now, right? So here's specific example. So last year, April 2024, a video of the stabbing of Bishop Mamare Emmanuel during a church service in Sydney was live streamed to 200,000 church members on its own website. Okay, not a social media thing, on its own website. People who were watching that then uploaded it to various social media platforms. Right, so a stabbing of a religious figure is considered to be something to be policed. Right? A stabbing of anybody should be policed. I think we can all agree on that. The eSafety Commissioner used her powers under the Online Safety Act to order both Meta and X to remove posts of the video within 24 hours. That was her demand. This must be down within 24 hours. All posts of it down in 24 hours because it was deemed to be a Class 1 offensive material. That Class 1 means it was considered to be the worst. That stuff is usually reserved for acts of terrorism and child abuse material. A couple of things that I think we can all agree, oh yeah, that's the worst of the worst, right? Why was this Class 1? There was a fear that it would incite more religious-based violence. So that it would incite essentially terrorism. That's why it was classified like that. The stabbing itself, now while I have not seen Ken Park, I have watched this one. And in my humble opinion, it is not particularly graphic, right? It's not like there's blood squirting everywhere. The bishop survived, right? He was fine. Essentially what you see there is kind of what it was, right? Can't even really see the knife itself. It just looked like somebody was softly hitting somebody else. So it wasn't the actual content that was graphic in Class 1. It was just the nature of it being a religious figure. Yep. So Meta, so that's Facebook and Instagram, you must take it down within 24 hours. X, you must take it down within 24 hours. What happened? While Meta complied with the takedown notice, X didn't take the content down, but instead geo-blocked it, which prevents anybody from an Australian IP address from viewing it. So it's still there for the rest of the world to see. Australian church bishop gets stabbed. I don't know what the titles are. The rest of the world can see it, but Australia, we can't. The reasoning for that, Elon Musk expressed that X would not allow a national regulator to control content beyond its national borders. And he tweeted that out. You don't need to quote the tweet necessarily. But he did say, our concern is that if any country is allowed to censor content for all countries, then what's to stop any country from controlling the entire internet? This tweet makes me personally uncomfortable because I don't like agreeing with that man. And I kind of do. Because if you imagine that if Australia says, well, this can't be seen by anybody because an Australian bishop is getting stabbed, imagine other countries that we know heavily police their own content, what they would be saying about what could be seen by the rest of the world. I'm not going to go around naming countries, but there are several that police their own media and are criticised for policing their own media that I'm very grateful don't control what news gets out to the rest of the world. Because it means that oppressed people, we won't see that news getting out. It means people who are impacted by war, that news might not get out. It means that people who criticise government might not be able to. So I agree with his sentiment. This is my own personal opinion. This is not something that you need to have in your notes. I agree with his sentiment, but then I'm also like, it's a stabbing video, buddy. Like of all the, you know, of all the hills to put your flag on, maybe not a stabbing video, you know? But so that's that. So what happened as a result of this, and I appreciate you, we've really gone through a hard slog with this one, but we're almost there. So Musk's public challenge to the eSafety Commissioner's authority prompted eSafety Australia to launch a federal court injunction to force X to comply. So federal court, we're pulling the trigger. Sky, you asked what happens if they don't face the fines. Well, they can start a court proceeding, right? However, by June 2024, remember the video was first in April 2024, so this is only 2 months later, so not a long time has passed. Imran Grant dropped the case against X because she was afraid that it wouldn't hold up in court. And she instead said, don't worry, we're fighting them on other matters, although never actually said what those things were, and hasn't done much against X since. So this was a victory for Elon Musk, who said that free speech had prevailed. Sky.
So with everything like trying to hurt and like how America is limiting like the freedom of speech there,
Yes.
is Elon Musk complying with Donald Trump?
Well, their bromance famously fizzled out when Trump was like, this guy's on ketamine. And Musk was like, this guy's in the Epstein files. But essentially, what has happened since, Elon Musk has recently been very quiet because his public demeanor has resulted in he losing money, right? People weren't buying Teslas, right? I don't know if I have seen a couple of Teslas that now have the bumper sticker of, we bought it before we knew. Yeah?
Yeah, my granny had to do.
Oh, she's got one?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So he is forced to comply by laws, but at the same time, I think in the US, he is more inclined to comply. I mean, Australia, we're such small fry, right? And the idea of $700,000 a day is nothing, right? Elon Musk is earning that much in a second, right? It's nothing to him. But as far as the way in which the US at the moment, with all the tensions and the freedom of speech things, the way in which they're enforcing those is different to actually applying law. They're doing it in very sneaky ways. So with, say, television in the US, because television is a dying medium. It's hard to make money from TV anymore. So all these television companies are trying to buy other things which typically would not be allowed because they're not allowed to have a monopoly, own too much of the media. What famously happened with, I forget which one it is, I think it's CBS that has let go of one of the Tonight hosts, I forget which one, the late night host, Stephen Colbert, I think. So Jimmy Kimmel was another one, but the CBS one was with Stephen Colbert, and who famously just gets on every night and criticises Trump. They've sacked him, and then the week after, a deal that they wanted government approval to buy more media was approved. It's that kind of sneaky ways rather than enforcing these kinds of regulations, right? It's a bit more complicated. Last slide. I guess this example leads to the image there, which is we can agree that under Elon Musk, X has significantly cut its capacity for self-regulation. This has resulted in an impactful increase in hate speech and violent content on the platform. While Australia's regulators have attempted to step in and force X to provide adequate protections for vulnerable users, Imran Grant has repeatedly backed down, leading many commentators to label the eSafety Commissioner, and this is the key term, as a toothless tiger. If you haven't heard that, it's a pretty old-fashioned expression. If you haven't heard it before, you can probably imagine what it means, right? Tiger looks scary, has all this power, and yet if it's toothless, if it's got no teeth, it can't do much damage, right? That's what eSafety Australia currently looks like, right? They criticise these social media giants. They say, we're going to fine you. They say, we're going to take you to court. And then ultimately they back down because at the end of the day, the Australian government does not have as much money to fight Elon Musk in court as he does. He's got more money. And they're afraid that they will lose. And if they lose, then it would be like if all crimes prosecuted and accused by police, if none of them were upheld, we'd start to lose a lot of respect for the police, right? So eSafety Australia can't afford to lose things in court because then it will look like they are weak. So it shows that it's not just enough to have regulation policies. The government and the media need to enforce them. Having rules is one thing. Actually enforcing it is where people get protected and society is better.